you left school and like you got in the police force, did you have new friends, or were they old friends that you knocked about with?
Well, you do. You tend to associate with people that are in whatever line of profession you choose. What's strange about it is my very first day out as a young constable, like in South Wales in Newport. I arrested a drink driver. And a lot of my arrests were for drink driving, domestic violence that was alcohol fueled, shoplifting. Again, it was. I never thought though at that time, that I would ever cross the line and become, an alcoholic myself.
Did you drink and drive while you were in the police force?
No, while I was in the police force, no. I was very law-abiding. I never stole. I never did anything that would bring disrepute. I lived by those principles. I was a knight in shining armour. I put my life on the line to protect people. If you had said to me at the time, that I would end up assaulting people or driving whilst drunk, it would just have been inconceivable. It was, but this is the nature of alcohol. It doesn't just make you tipsy. It doesn't just temporarily knock out. What's the word? I can't think of the word now. It's gone.
Knock out.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. Well, again, that's partly the effect of alcohol. It's just boom. It's an anaesthetic.
Is there anything?
Inhibitions.
Inhibition.
Those are could be the good sides of it. But when you drink over periods of years, nobody knows for certain the damage that it causes and the disruption. Alcohol disrupts brain function, associated with the processing and moderation of moods, emotions, perceptions, judgments, reaction times, coordination, and behaviour. Anything is possible under the influence of alcohol that wouldn't necessarily be possible had that person been sober. And I'm a classic example of that. And I've seen it. I've seen it thousands of times. People that are women that have had children taken into care because they can't stop drinking. And I know for a fact, there's no question that mother loves their children to bits. But the compulsion, the craving, and this is what people don't understand. A lot of counsellors in the field as well, they don't understand. They try to say, well, yeah, you're only drinking because you're going through a bad patch or something like that. And there may be some plausibility to that. But if a person is, has got the genetic predisposition to addiction, and addiction's kicked in, so you have the craving, and the tolerance has progressed to the point where you no longer desire alcohol. It's a necessity to feed your habit. It's what it is. It's a drug, and you feed. It's ethanol. It's a very powerful. The World Health Organization have classified as a category 1. It's a category 1 carcinogen. It's a cancer-forming drug. It's a psychoactive drug, and it's partly or wholly responsible for over 200 different disease conditions, let alone all the other issues in relation to violence and domestic disputes and the personality changes that it generates. It is. They reckon it's up there. One of the top 3 causes of health issues, right? But if you encompass all the other problems, it's probably the number 1. It's bigger than illegal drugs. It causes more deaths in teenagers than illicit drugs, and it causes more problems in the workplace. Now, all right, the balance may be adjusted because I understand, not that I know from personal experience, but watching programs and things on the television, it would appear, there's an explosion of illicit drugs, cocaine and one thing, and a flood in the market in the UK. That may or may not be the case. I don't know. I can't comment on that. I never use illicit drugs. But my goodness me, if people are combining, illegal drugs and alcohol, I mean, God help society really, because, alcohol destroyed my career and my life, and combining drugs, I can't see it mitigating the problems any less. So,
is it the ethanol and the alcohol that causes the addiction, or is it the person themselves?
well, that's an interesting one. Well, some people, again, if you look on YouTube, there are people talking about what addiction is, and you've got as many different opinions. Some say, you can classify all addictions as the same. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking about alcohol, cocaine, tea, coffee, sex, sport, your work can become an addiction. But you have to be careful. I mean, like, you could have an obsessive compulsive personality, and I'll just give you an example with regards to tea. Right, I'm obsessive about tea in that it's never that far away from my mind. Through the course of any day, when I wake up in the morning, first thing I want is a cup of tea.
I think a lot of English people are like that.
Indeed. That's the obsession. The compulsion is that you act on it. So I will go make a cup of tea, and that might happen maybe 6 times through the course of a day. But not once can I turn around, in 60 years of my life, and turn around and say, yeah, I started on 1 cup of tea, now I'm on 15 cups of tea. Or my started on a small cup of tea, now I'm on 3 pints of tea. I don't push people out of the way to get to the Thai food, in Sainsbury's. Do you know what I mean? So to try and compare an addiction to tea with an addiction to alcohol, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I think, again, I tend to separate the two. Addiction to me is something where you're compelled to do it, but the outcome has a negative effect on your life.
Would you say the alcohol is a drug, has the effects of a drug as an addiction?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a psychoactive drug. I don't want to go into the chemistry of it, but it has what's called a hydroxyl ion, which is what's called its functional group, and that just means that it acts in certain ways chemically. So an alcohol actually is the family name chemically. So it starts off with the first in the line. It depends on how many atoms and how heavy the molecule is, and as they add, it becomes heavier and they get bigger. So the first one is methanol. That's the first alcohol in the series, and everyone's heard of methylated spirits. So the first one's methanol, the second one is ethanol, which is C2H5OH. So it's 2 carbon atoms, 3 hydrogen, and this hydroxyl ion. So, and then you've got propanol, butanol, and then they go up in heavier chains, and those alcohols are used in industry for sort of detergents, all sorts of stuff like that. But so what we consider, what we commonly refer to as alcohol is in actual fact ethanol. And it's a very potent drug. And it's no different to some of the other heavy drugs out there where addiction is, we're all aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to ask yourself why is it that not everyone has a problem drinking alcohol? If you look within my family, my sister will have a glass or 2 of wine.
Why can't I ask you that question?
You can.
I suppose you've got to ask yourself, why is it that not everybody has an addiction with alcohol?
I think the answer very simply is the same as why everyone doesn't have diabetes. We all have our genetic code. Why are some people tall? Why are some people short? Why some people have blue eyes? it's partly handed down from our parents, uh, and in a family you may find, like my two brothers. Well, my one brother, my eldest brother, 77. He's drunk all his life, but he'll have a glass of wine and put the bottle back in the fridge, which to me is abnormal drinking. I don't understand, because he doesn't have the craving. So, it's the craving. That's what drives addiction, is the craving, and for people who don't have a problem, they don't have the craving. Now, if you look again, if 1 in 4 of the drinking population are drinking to excess, if that excess is being driven by craving, then there's a serious problem in society. But it's part. I honestly believe it's part of the genetic code. We are pre-wired for addiction, and not everybody is. Like, I'm pre-wired for diabetes. I'm pre-wired to have high cholesterol. The World Health Organization have classified alcoholism, as a bona fide illness. It is classified up there with heart disease and strokes and things like that. So it is recognised by the World Health Organization. In America as well, in some places. I think in Britain now they're kind of moving that way as well. The NHS have accepted that it's an illness. I think the only real thing that's in sort of dispute is what happens if you've got it. Because any thought that you can have a brief intervention and then control your drinking is nonsense. If an addict could control their intake, there wouldn't be a problem. And it has to be total abstinence, because as soon as you have one, that triggers the craving and the compulsion for more. And believe me when I tell you, as much as I always wanted to stop and limit, as soon as that first one goes down, all those control mechanisms that are inherent in you, that your reason, they just fade away. They just don't exist when alcohol is in play. So you have no control once you have a drink, and your brain tells you you're feeling good. So if you have more and that craving's there, you'll feel better. Ordinary drinkers don't have that. They can shut off. They can stop.
Would you say at any time in life this can be triggered? Or
Absolutely.
At any time?
Oh, yeah. I knew a lady she'd worked in a rehab for a good number of years, medically, sort of, with a medical background. She'd seen 2 brothers pass away from alcoholism, and that's why she never drank. Way into her late 30s. And as soon as she started to drink, she realised she was alcoholic within a very, very short space of time. So, okay, the more you drink, the longer you drink, the greater the chances are that you will become addicted. But that's not always the case. As soon as somebody drinks, it can trigger, addiction straight away. And I think that's not understood in society. People think addicts are doing it, because they're losers, or they pull yourself together, like it. You do it. You think you do it for the sake of the kids, or if he carries on like that, he's going to lose his job. Then how's he going to pay the mortgage? And they don't seem to get a handle on addiction. You cannot control addiction,
and it comes in many forms.
And many drugs, but I can only talk about alcohol. That's the only experience I've had personally, and from what I've seen of others. And what I do like about it is that it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what you do for a living. It doesn't care how much money you've got in the bank, what profession, whether you're famous, not famous, whether you're royalty or not royalty. And I do like that about it. I do like that. That's the one good thing about alcoholism. It don't give a monkey's who you are. If you've got the predisposition and you drink, you bring those two together, at some point, bang, what's it's got you? It's got you.
Because a lot of people perceive alcoholism as you're a down and out, you're a bum to be an alcoholic.
Yeah.
When you just said, obviously, it comes in many stages and many forms in life.
Yeah. The majority of alcoholics are just what they call functioning alcoholics. The ones you see on a park bench or going into recovery, they're the tip of the iceberg. the vast majority are out there working, holding down jobs, trying to maintain a level of respectability, struggling, but just keeping their head above the waterline. And at some point, some disaster or other will happen, and it will cause them to ask serious questions of themselves or their family. Usually, as I said, it's not the person that's drinking with a problem that it's usually those around them realise something ain't quite right. But this notion that it's a weakness, and that's about time now was dispelled. It's about time people understood that alcoholism is far more common, not to be ashamed of, but something to be faced and addressed before it takes your life, really.
So, if you were a family member of somebody who you knew had a problem with alcohol, what would your advice be to them?
This is tough. This is a tough question. For a start, having come through it myself, I've got a good idea of the pain that they're experiencing. But unless a person wants to make a change, there's not a lot you can do. All you can do is plant a seed. And when that person's ready, and they may never be ready, because
you were one of the lucky ones.
I'm extremely lucky. I didn't do it. I'm extremely lucky. Most people in my situation are dead, and it kills. And you want to give that person, you want them to have what you have. I don't know, for some reason, maybe life has just become so painful for them, with alcohol or without alcohol. When you're in the depths of despair and that abyss, you can't see any light. You can't see a way out. You don't know that there is a different way to be, and that's tragic.
Until it's either too late or you see the light.
Yeah.